Welcome to another edition of the RF Video Shoot interview series. Today we're joined by none other than Dawn Marie. Thanks for being here with us today, Dawn.
Well, thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Long time in the making, right?
Very long time in the making.
Finally got you to commit. All right, let's talk about your wrestling career. And I guess my very first question to you would be how you got started in the wrestling business. Were you a fan growing up?
I was a huge fan growing up. I watched it all the time with my family, my uncle, my grandfather, my dad, my brother. I used to get so jealous because my brother was older than me. He's 8 years older than me, so he was always allowed to go to all the matches. We were poor growing up, so you always knew WrestleMania time was coming around because I'd start cleaning the house and trying to get my dad to buy WrestleMania and just all sorts of things. And some of my fondest memories were watching wrestling with my family, MSG, old MSG, and you know.
So you grew up in Jersey when you grew up?
Yeah.
Or New York?
No, I grew up in New Jersey.
Okay.
I always grew up in Woodbridge area, Middlesex County area, and I'm still residing there now.
So you always knew as a little kid you wanted to get into the business, or were you just a fan at one point and you didn't really want to get in the wrestling business?
No, I never imagined in my wildest dreams that I would ever be in a wrestling business. I just enjoyed it as a fan. But when I got older and it fell into my lap, it just happened and it fit. And I guess I learned at a very young age, never say never.
Right. You also did a lot of modeling too at one point, right?
Yeah, I did some modeling and acting. Actually, when I was a young girl, I was out on my own when I was 17. I was actually homeless at 17. I lived in my car. And I grew up very quickly. Kind of grew up on the streets a little bit. And I started working in a bar as a bartender and just trying to make ends meet, put myself through somewhere to live.
Right.
And I started working in a go-go bar, which in New Jersey they're go-go,
right,
bikini bars. And then from bartending, I was there anyway, had the name for being there anyway. It's not like today, you know, oh, you're a go-go dancer, me too. It wasn't like that back then. This was in 87, 88, where it was taboo.
Right.
You know, you went to the laundromat and washed your bikinis because you didn't want to bring them into the house because if your roommate saw it, you were chastised.
Right.
So I did that for a very long time. I put myself through school. I worked very hard, so I was away from wrestling for a while. But when I was putting myself through school and being a go-go dancer, I did have dreams of being a entertainer. And I believe entertainers are born. They're not made. And it was something I always wanted to do. And through that, I didn't get much work in New York. I just spent a lot of money going in and out.
Portfolios and all that?
Yeah,
right.
And then what would happen is I would get some cheesy modeling gigs. You know, it's very similar to what you see in Spencer's, those posters or different types of things. And when I was in a go-go bar, one night I was working at Cheeks in Linden, and a gentleman, Jonathan Gold, came in, and we started talking about wrestling. And I said, oh, I was always a fan of wrestling. And then he had a contact in Florida that did some poster deals. And he asked me if I had some pictures, portfolio pictures that I own, that maybe he can get me a deal and make a few extra bucks. I did it. They picked up my pictures. I finished school, and I was no longer looking to be an actor, at being an actor or a model or anything like that. And I told Jonathan, I'm done. I'm not doing anything else. Just tell the guy I'm not sending anything else.
Right.
And I quit my acting school at the time also. And
that's okay.
sorry.
It's okay.
My phone's going off. It's my alarm. Sorry.
That's okay.
So basically, he came to my house to finish signing off the pictures that were already out in Florida. And he started talking about wrestling again. And it's like, oh, I really love wrestling. It's something I wish I could always done. I could be like the next Miss Elizabeth.
Right.
Just never that I would ever fill her shoes. Just kind of talking out of my ass, pretty much. And he called me up the following week. And he said, I called a friend of mine, Cousin Luke. And he said he would put you on a local indie shot. And I said, Jonathan, I was only kidding. There's no way. I don't want to do that. I haven't watched wrestling in years. I was only joking.
Right.
And he said, Dawn, well, I thought you were serious. And if you would just do this one show, please don't make me look stupid. And I asked him for a favor. Don't make me go back and say no. So I was like, all right. So I pulled together a little character, and I showed up at the place. I believe it was in like Plainfield or Piscataway or somewhere in Bound Brook, something up in that area, New Jersey. And I showed up, and they put me. I managed Tony Atlas against Jimmy Snuka, and when I walked in the back room, I was just, who are you putting me with?
Huh.
Because you have to realize, back in the day, those were the guys that were on top.
Right.
So, and then I was away from it for 10 years. So now, I'm going, oh my God, no, I can't do this. But I did it. And I have my infamous pictures with Tony kissing my feet and doing the whole foot thing. Yes, I'm asked that all the time. And actually, I saw him not too long ago, and he said, "Oh, Dawn, the girl with the pretty feet."
Wow.
And I haven't seen him in so many years, and it was pretty funny. But yeah, that's how it all started. Mm-hmm.
Now let's talk about your training. Obviously, now you knew you wanted to get into the business. Where did you go from here?
Well, back then, I mean, the girls weren't wrestling. We were managers. We
Right.
were actors. We were
Ballets.
But I didn't truly know what that meant, being a valet. I just thought it meant, hey, I'm kind of cute. I'm going to stay outside and pretend like I know what's going on, because that's exactly what it was for
Right.
me. But through my ventures of being on the indies, see, I would go anywhere from Michigan down to Florida on a weekly basis. Maybe 2-3 times a week I was working, because I was really, really, really ambitious. And I'd make maybe $25 if I was lucky. It would cost me money. So I would work all week in the bar, dancing, sometimes double shifts, because I had to pay for my place to live, my food,
Right.
plus pay for my travel, my whatever I needed to do to go.
Who was getting you the bookings, Jonathan?
No. Well, Jonathan got me not any indie stuff. He got me maybe 1 or 2 in the beginning. But I came across a very, what would be the greatest word, and you'll understand, a unpredictable character. We all know as Tom Casati.
Oh, yeah. Right.
So now you know I was lost for words. How do you describe Tom? But honest to God, I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for Tom Casati. And people may say a lot of things about him, and trust me, he is all those things.
Right.
But in my heart, I love him forever. And there's nothing I wouldn't do for him, because I don't judge people on their last performances. I judge people on who they are. And I guess I was fortunate enough to get to know who Tom was on the inside and not what he wants people to perceive him as being.
Right.
But Tom took me into his little entourage of people, which at the time was me, Devin Storm, which later on became Crowbar, Sal Sincere, Tom
Right.
Brandy, Missy Hyatt, Scott Putsky, the Headbangers, Glenn, well, Disco, sometimes Disco was in and out.
Right.
I think that was the crew. I think that, Buddy Landau. Buddy Landau. So, I was brought in with a pretty rowdy little crew of people, and they broke me in very, very well. Not only did I have a lot of people that understood the industry and the idiosyncrasies and taught me a lot about the stuff that happens in the ring. Or should I say not taught me, yelled at me and ribbed me horribly whenever I screwed up. But if they didn't do that, I wouldn't have become the perfectionist I was. And I think my greatest education I got from that crew were politics. I learned politics in this industry far, far before I ever learned what the heck was going on in that ring. I learned how to talk without getting in trouble. I learned how to present issues. I learned how to speak when spoken to, learning to pick and choose your battles.
Right.
I learned how to be seen or not seen. I learned my place. Buddy Landau felt very bad for me for a long time because Missy gave it to me for a long time. She really broke me in hard. And Buddy felt bad for me. And he would sit with me for hours and hours and hours. Actually, I used to sometimes get the room adjacent to him just so he can kind of like keep me sane and mentor me without people thinking anything else was going on. And because nothing ever happened with me and Buddy, but he just felt so bad for me because Missy was just giving it to me so bad, and Scott. And he just taught me the politics. And just, I tell you, hours and hours and hours. Sometimes we wouldn't even sleep at night. He would just keep me up all night trying to catch me up so that I would kind of be one step ahead of people. And when I went to ECW and I was in a locker room, Paul Heyman pulled me aside about 2 months later and he said, "Come here." And I said, "What, Paul?" He says, "I don't know who smartened you up, but whoever did, they taught you well." And I looked at him and I go, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "You know exactly what I'm talking about." He goes, "You may have everyone in this locker room fooled." He said, "But whoever taught you is a master."
What situation arose that he came up to you and said that to you?
Paul's a great observer. Paul knew what every single person in that locker room was up to and who they were.
Right.
And I don't mean who they were in wrestling, who they were outside of the ring, who they were here. And he may play stupid and act like he doesn't know, or he allowed you to think. He allowed you to think that you were playing him. But don't ever think you're playing Paul Heyman, because that will be your first mistake ever in this industry or in any business deal. Paul's greatest gift is knowing people. Everyone says he's a genius, but his genius goes far beyond wrestling. It's his people genius. He could size you up in 5 minutes and know how to use you, how to abuse you, how to take advantage of you or not take advantage. He'll know what he can and cannot get away with, or whether or not he wants to. Now, some people may look at that as him being a scumbag. It's not. You're the scumbag if you allow someone to take advantage of you. It's called business. That's what it's called. And if you're ignorant enough to allow someone to take advantage of you, then maybe you shouldn't be there. So I applaud him. I can only wish one day I could be as intuitive and in tune with people the way he is. His people skills I'll put them against anyone in the world. I really will. But that, I know I'm going off.
No, it's okay.
But
that's okay. I guess let's talk about early on in your career. You also worked for MCW, a lot of the local indies and stuff. Is that where you met Pat for the first time?
I met Pat at a MCW. No, MCW was Baltimore, correct?
Yeah.
Now, I met Pat Kenny at PCW. It was a local group in Pennsylvania. And I'm trying to think of the guy's name that ran it. Blaine DeSantis.
Okay.
Blaine DeSantis ran PCW. And I met him for the first time there. Pat and I had a very quick connection. Not romantically, but friendship. There was just something that we clicked.
Right.
And we were friends. Well, I actually managed him. And we became friends. We were probably friends for about 2 years before we ever started dating. Yeah.
Was it difficult for you to be around, I guess, the business because there were so many men in the business and you were a woman at the time?
No.
It was easy.
I think it made it easier for me because
You were around that.
First of all, I was raised by my father.
Right.
Since I'm 5 years old. So I really only had men to relate to. And I have 2 brothers. So, I mean, it took me a lot of work to learn how to be a girl.
Gotcha.
It was work. Then I worked in a go-go bar for, since I'm 17 till Paul took me out of the Go-Go Bar in 99, January of 99. So that's 12 years in a Go-Go Bar relating to only men.
Right.
So I think it's what made me more comfortable.
Okay. Did you have any preconceived notions about the wrestling business before you really got into it?
No.
No.
No, I didn't. I think I went in there with just a real open mind and didn't expect anything. I think that may be one of the reasons why I actually lasted. Because I never expected to be treated a certain way. I never expected anything. I was kind of just grateful for whatever experience happened.
Right.
And let's just move forward, that type of thing, and take what comes.
Right. I guess, what would you call your first big break before ECW? Was it just working the indie circuit, or is there...
No, my first big break was Tom Casati.
Okay.
He would take us around 2-3 times a week, all over the country. So I was able to expand and work with names.
What was his deal, exactly? Because I hear stories, but I don't honestly know, really. From what I gather, he would take a group of guys and would he pay for everything and feed them? Like, I don't understand what his exact deal was in the business.
Yeah, I think he was just a huge fan in the business.
Right.
He had quite a few bucks. His family were very rich. And he used his money to travel with the boys. And he had a group of us. Our plane tickets were paid for. Well, I don't know exactly the mechanics of it, but I know he would book us places, and then he would take that money, put it towards it. Now, I don't know if it was an even wash. I mean, there's
Right.
stories where it says no, and he took money out of his pocket to do this.
Right. So he was a kind of a mark for you guys?
That's what some people say.
Right.
But I don't know if I would call him a mark. I think he just had a passion for the business, and he wanted to be in it.
Right.
So it was his way, because he didn't just travel with us, he also worked.
Okay.
So, I think that he traveled and worked. It was his way of getting in. Like, to me, a mark is someone that is a huge fan of wrestling and just gives you money, or like just wants to pay for everything just to hang out with you.
Right.
But see, I don't think that was Tom's gig. I think Tom wanted to be in the business. And maybe he thought this was his way of breaking in. I don't know. I'm not in his head.
Right.
But it definitely wasn't, let me pay money to hang out with you, because he could have hung out with these people
Right.
at a bar and had dinner. He didn't have to fly them to shows. So there had to be some other ulterior motives there, because he did work.
Okay. How did you wind up in ECW?
Tammy had just come off her Sunny Days.
Right.
And she was doing her debut at ECW. Marlena had recently was on a sabbatical, or Terry Reynolds was on a sabbatical from WWE. And Paul Heyman and Tommy were in negotiations with Terry to come in to ECW to be Tammy's rival. But at the same time, there were a lot of wars going on between WCW, ECW, WWE. Terry received an offer from Vince. So they were in the middle of negotiating. Terry was going back. Okay? So now Tammy's coming and there's no one. So I received a phone call from I just went blank with his name, Jones.
Jeff Jones.
Jeff Jones. I'm going to call him Mikey Jones, but I knew that wasn't it. Jeff Jones. Jeff Jones calls me and says, Bubba's going to be calling you. Okay. Bubba calls me. Bubba says, I'm interested in bringing you in for a one-shot deal at ECW. This was at like 12 o'clock. Can you be there by 4? Now, I live Central Jersey. It's a 2-hour drive.
Right.
And being that I was in the bar business for so many years, I don't function until 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. There's just no way. And so I said, absolutely. I go, what do you want me to bring? He goes, just bring a bunch of stuff. We don't know what we're going to have you do. Just bring stuff. Okay. So I bring my whole go-go gear down there. I said, what am I going to bring? I don't know what to bring. I bring my gear down there. And I get down there in time.
What town was this?
It was for Philly.
Okay, cool.
It was for the ECW Arena.
Great.
I mean, so what is a better place to start, right?
Right.
I go down there knowing nobody. Knowing absolutely nobody. I was barely able to watch the programs or be a student of the business because I had to work so much in order to keep up with what I had to do. So I'm walking in there, seeing people I know, but also not knowing who it was, and I didn't know, what do I do?
Right.
I'm calling Pat Kenny nonstop. What do I do? What do I do? Can you come meet me? What do I do? You know, he's nowhere to be found. Finally, I catch him. He goes, just go down there, be nice to everyone. He kind of talked me through it.
Right.
So then I go down there, I introduce myself. Bubba pulls me to his side again. And he says, now, you could say no. It's up to you. But this is what we want you to do. We want you to get into a cat fight with Tammy. And she's going to pull your clothes off. And you're going to be in your bra and panties. Now, you have to realize, like, now, today saying that, it's like, okay, what's the problem? We didn't do that then. This was in 95.
Right.
So in my head, I'm thinking, oh my God, what do I do? Call him Pat Kenny, call him Pat Kenny. He's nowhere to be found. I wanted to kill him.
Right.
Right? And we weren't even together at this point. We were just friends. And my decision, my dilemma was this. If I do it, you know, I was raised in this business to say, you do whatever you're asked to the 100% of your ability. We don't ask you for your approval. You just do it. You don't have to like it. We're not asking you for your opinion. You just do it.
Right.
That's how I was brought in. But then on the other side, I have this conflict of, oh my God, if I do something, will this ever ruin my chances of going somewhere else? Because am I disrespecting everyone else? So I didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I just went back to my grassroots. I says, okay, the number one rule is you're not supposed to have an opinion, you just do what you're asked. I always went back to my grassroots. And I made the right decision. I said, yes, I'll do it, I have no problem. I'm like, you sure? I go, sure. Is that what you need me to do? Yes. Okay. So I did it. So that was my first night with ECW. About a week later, I received a phone call. And it was Bubba.
Huh.
And he says to me, would you be interested in doing another tour? I'm like, of course. He says, it's in New Orleans. I said, okay, no problem. Where do I get my plane ticket? He starts screaming at me. What do you think you are, a prima donna? Is that the type of girl you are? What do you think you are, a superstar? You did one shot at the ECW arena. You think you deserve things? He's like, I'll tell you, you want to get there, this is the name of the building. You be there by Thursday. Or Friday.
Right.
Whatever it was. It's like, okay. Like, what do? You know, you're thinking New Orleans. It's how many hours away? And I spoke with Nova and Randy, which was doing some of this stuff.
Right.
And they allowed me to jump in with them and help with the travel, and I got down there.
Cool.
And I did my 3-deal gig in New Orleans, and Paul loved the chemistry between Lance and I, and he created a spot.
So in the beginning, you were just dealing with Bubba before Paul, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Did Paul come up to you at all after the first time and obviously thanked you? But there was not a lot of interaction there?
No.
Okay. What were your initial impressions of Paul when you first got to get to know him?
I don't even remember. It was so long ago.
Right.
I would be lying. But, I mean, I'm sure it's probably very similar to the first time I met Vince.
Right.
Like, oh my God, it's Paul Heyman. I think I was just so afraid, just period, that I didn't even have any chance to think about it.
What about the locker room itself? What were your initial impressions of the locker room?
It was scary.
Why is that?
It was really scary. The first time I ever went was at ECW Arena. It's very dark back there. It looks a bit seedy. It's, you come in through the back and it's almost like a back alley type of entrance. It was just a little dirty. It was a little nerve-wracking. You kind of looked around, here I am, what am I getting myself into? A lot of different type of characters, different type of people, many different types of people. And it was very scary. It was a scary place to be at the moment.
How friendly and helpful were the other girls towards you?
They were okay. I mean, I don't know about helpful or friendly. Tammy was great. Tammy and I hit it off right away. And Tammy and I worked very well together. I knew my place. I wasn't there trying to take someone's job. I was just trying to get a job. I didn't care if it was sweeping the floors.
Right.
So I think they realized that it wasn't a threat in the beginning of what was going on. Tammy and I got along really well, and that was my focal point was, okay, Tammy is my ride right now. That's what I was thinking. Tammy's my ride. I have to make sure Tammy and I get along. I got to make sure Tammy and I have great chemistry. And I got to make sure Tammy and my program goes for a long time. And as long as we can keep it interesting and keep it going, I know I have a job. So that's truly the way I went in there looking at it, on a business sense. Or should I say it like Paul said, who smartened you up.
Right.
I wasn't worried about making friends. I just wanted everyone to like me. But my focus was on Tammy and my program with Lance, Tammy, and Chris.
Right.
And then after every shot, I went and I took as much advice from everyone because I didn't know how long it was going to last. And I wanted to walk away with a lot more than my $75 that I was getting paid to be there.
Right.
Because obviously that wasn't the whole purpose of being there. The whole purpose of being there was to be on TV, get recognition, and learn. Those were my 3 goals when I was there.
As far as working with Tammy, was she easy to work with?
Very easy.
Okay.
Very easy to work with. You know, I've never had a problem with Tammy, but I also, when I worked with Tammy, I made it about Tammy. Because that storyline was about Tammy coming here. So I never try to overshadow her. I never try to not make it about her. I knew my spot.
Right.
And I think that definitely played a huge part in why it worked. And we got along so well because she didn't have to worry about some girl coming in there trying to take her spot. She could just be who she was and do what she had to do. And I was the girl that emphasized all that she was and everything that she was trying to do. And it worked. And I believe that I made a career out of doing that. And I never had a problem with that. I always try to make my career sort of like the Owen Hart of women, in a sense. Not saying I'm Owen Hart, but
Right.
you know, Owen Hart was just amazing at making others just look so great. He just made people shine, and because they shined, he was a top guy. You know, and it kind of was that trickle, and I always tried to do that with my career and saying, you know, I don't want to be that top girl. I want to be the girl that makes top girls. I want to be the girl that keeps top girls where they are. And then when they're on top and I'm in programs with them, then I'm successful.
Right.
And that's the formula I really based my whole career on.
What was it like to work with Lance? How'd you guys get along?
I love my Lance. We could do a whole tape on my Lance. Lance is the most amazing human being I've ever met in my entire life.
No ego.
No ego, just down to earth. He'll tell you if he likes you, he'll tell you if he doesn't. He'll tell you exactly what's on his mind, but not in a nasty way. He does it in a very
Sarcastic but comedic.
you know what I love that Lance. I love dry sense of humor, and Lance is the king of dry sense of humor. And if you don't know him in detail like I did, or very few people were able to get to know him, you don't get his humor, you just think he's an ass.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But, like me, I knew Lance so inside out, because we spent so much time together, that I just thought he was the funniest man I've ever met in my entire life. And when I tell people that, they go, okay. And I'm like, no, you don't understand how funny he really is.
Right.
But, like, Lance, I put Lance here, of, like, all men ever. I really do. And what I mean by that is, not only is he wonderful at his job, not only is he a world-class athlete, not only is he like world-class mind of the industry and matches, and I mean, he's so underrated. He really is. He's a world-class father, husband. He's a family man. And he's a world-class person. And like, we could only wish to, in our lifetime, meet someone like that. And I was lucky enough to have met someone like that. I just never met anyone that was so all around just a really good person. He would never do anything to hurt someone purposely. He would never be vindictive. But he would be the first one online to say, hey, you pissed me off.
Right.
And this is why. And you know what? I give someone respect for that. He would never say it behind your back. And he's just a stand-up guy. And we used to have some ongoing jokes. There were rumors back in the day me and him were fooling around. It was just so ridiculous. It was so ridiculous that we used to actually play into it.
Right.
Because it was entertainment for us. Like, here's Pat, right here next to me. And people think I'm sleeping with Lance, which is right here next to me. I mean, what kind of person do you think I am? Come on now. And you know what? If you don't have that much respect for me and you think I'm like that, how can you think Lance is that type of person after getting to know him for 5 minutes? So, it's just like we used to have this ongoing joke, and Lance used to say, yeah, Dawn, who do you think would beat me up first, you or my wife, if I ever cheated? And I'm like, you kidding me? Your wife would be the second in line. I would kick your ass if you ever cheated on your wife.
Right.
I would kill you. And he would be laughing. I go, there would be nothing left for me, because I put him on such a high pedestal that it would literally break my heart if I ever thought he would do something wrong, like immoral.
Right. How did you guys develop your chemistry together?
We just did. I think we have very similar personalities, except for maybe I'm a little bit more outgoing. But he took care of me. He protected me there. He knew this is something I wanted. And I'm sure there was a lot to the same thing like with me and Tammy. I had to make it work with Tammy and really have this chemistry with her to be able to put it in the ring. And I believe with him it was the same thing. This was our chance. It worked, but we really need to make it work. So he put a lot more effort into me and our chemistry. We bonded. We would talk. There were hours and hours of conversations, not just about wrestling, but about ourselves and our person. We made it fun. But there was no one that was going to say anything bad about me or put me down. And there was no one that was ever going to say anything bad about him or put him down, because we were just tight as thieves. There was just nobody was going to get between us. And I think because of that chemistry and that trust that we created, people thought there were other things going on. Right.
Well, let's talk about from there, after that program. Did you go to, I guess, were you managing Swinger and Simon right from there, from that program? Was there anything in between?
You mean after Lance left?
Yeah.
No. After he left, I was out for, they just had me doing little things here and there.
Right.
No, they just had me doing some commentary, and I think I was being punished for a little bit for a while.
For what?
I think I was being punished for a little bit because Franny and I didn't get along. And Franny had a huge tie into the office. And once Lance wasn't there to protect me anymore from the nonsense, then I got a little bit of a backlash.
What started your whole, I guess, problem with Franny?
In my opinion, I think that when Tammy came in, Tammy was here. Okay, and I put her here because she came from WWE.
Right.
Franny was here because she was at the top of ECW. So I'm going to put her a little below Tammy, okay? Franny was so fixed on Tammy coming in and focused, because she didn't want her to take her spot, in a sense, like her limelight, that I was not even on the radar. As Tammy and I were working together, of course, I got a huge rub off of Tammy.
Right.
Come on.
It's going to happen.
I'm not ashamed to admit that. I mean, I probably wouldn't have been as successful if I didn't have that first run off of Tammy. Okay? Using her name, using, everything. So as I was creeping up, and then Tammy was having her problems and starting to have a quick downslide, which we all know about.
Right.
And then Franny didn't have to worry about Tammy anymore, because Tammy was kind of like very shaky. But now here I came. And now it's like, whoa, here's Franny and Dawn. Where did she come from? And I think that started with a lot of the jealousy, and I don't like to use jealousy. Jealousy is an ugly word. The competitiveness. Where, why is this girl sharing my limelight? Why is she now equal to where I'm at in stature in the company? And I was due to Tammy. But as Tammy started to fade out in the background through her problems, here I came shining through.
Right.
And that's where a lot of our combativeness came from. See, I'm the type of person where I will work harder in being better at what I do. And there are others that will work hard on trying to get rid of people that may be as good or better than what I do. And it's just two different personalities.
Did anybody ever sit you guys down and try to work things out, or was it something that couldn't be done?
No, it wasn't going to get done. Not because of me.
Right.
Higher office didn't want to, for personal things that were going on behind the scenes.
Right.
They didn't want to confront her. And they had many conversations with me, asking me to just deal with it. Don't go. Don't leave. Because I could have left with Lance.
Right.
There were many times I wanted to leave. But I didn't.
Right.
For many reasons. And she made my life a living hell there. Living hell. There were nights I would go home and cry and cry and cry and cry and be miserable. I didn't want to go back. And then here come Thursday again, and I would just cry even more because I didn't want to go back there. It was bad. But just like Missy did it to me when I was coming up on the Indies, it made me stronger. When it was done to me at ECW and I had to bite my tongue and just take it on the chin, it made me stronger. It made me make myself better. It made me be the person, realize the type of person I didn't want to be, but to be a person of stature and work ethic.
Okay. Let's talk about some of the other guys in the locker room. Just your opinions on them. Let's talk about Taz. Your opinions on Taz?
Taz is great. Taz was a strong personality in our locker room. Taz came from a very old school mentality, and he enforced it. But it was like he didn't enforce it. He had his enforcers.
Right.
So, but Taz was always very approachable. I mean, I could go to Taz at any time and ask him an opinion. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? But he was very approachable. People think he's not approachable, and he really is. If he saw you worked hard and you weren't wasting his time,
right,
he'll give you all the time you want.
What about RVD? What was Rob like in the locker room?
Rob was just laid back. It's like you didn't even know he was there. I mean, unless you happened to catch him walk by, you didn't even know he was there until you heard the music outside. Oh, Rob's here?
Right.
You knew Rob was there because you heard, Fonzie.
Right.
It's like, oh, Rob's here. I hear Fonzie, in the back yapping.
Right.
But, I mean, Rob was just, he was just quiet and reserved, and you didn't even know he was there.
What about Fonzie?
Fonzie's Fonzie.
Yeah.
Fonzie's inside out Fonzie. Hyper, loud, opinionated.
Yeah.
All those things we love about him.
Steve Corino?
Steve Corino. God, I grew up with Steve Corino. I met him when I first started in the Indies. And I'd like to say Steve grew up in ECW. He became a big figure in the industry with ECW. He came from nothing, and he came into his own. And I think he handled it really well. There's a lot of things that happen. I mean, if you were to ask me this question when I was at ECW, I probably wouldn't have understood it.
Right.
But now, looking back, I think he handled it really well. Because I've seen people handle it much worse.
Huh.
But it was a lot handed to him. I know he was going through some marital problems at the time. He has a boy. He was living his dream. He was growing up. He had a great opportunity. He took it, and I thought he was a great champion for ECW.
What about Tommy Dreamer?
Tommy's Tommy. Tommy's the same all around. Tommy was a non-confrontational personality in our locker room. He loved ECW with every ounce of his heart. He, I feel, lost a part of his heart when ECW closed, and I don't think he'll ever be the same. I think when ECW closed, it's very much like when someone loses a very big relationship or monumental relationship in their life. I think that when ECW went down, there will forever be a hole in Tommy's heart, and there'll be bitterness.
Did you get along with him because of the whole Franny thing?
Yeah, I did get along with him, but I can't say that I agreed
Right.
with how he was handling it. I could tell you the only person I did not ever get along with at ECW was Franny. I respected and understood where it was coming from, being the office, but at the same time I was very disappointed, and I felt it should have been handled in a much different way, or should have been addressed. When I'm sitting in a match with someone, so say it was me, Lance, and Scotty, and Franny,
Right.
she would go to Lance and say, "Can you tell her I'm going to do this? Can you tell it?" And I'm standing 2 feet from you. That is not acceptable behavior. That's just down out rude. And
She would call you it?
It, her, it, and she, it, and her.
Right.
To my face. So to me, that's an office situation that it should have been handled.
Did any of your cat fights get a little bit stiff or out of hand at any time?
That was the only place I can get my revenge back.
Right. Huh.
Because I wasn't going to win outside the ring.
Right.
So yeah, a lot of our cat fights were very real. Very real. Not real, but a little.
Right.
A little.
Right.
A little. Because I'm not going to be disrespectful to the match, and I would never ruin a match.
Right.
Except for the one in Canada.
What happened up there?
You remember the one in Canada.
Yeah.
You know, it was just like Lance was leaving. Lance had just left. My world was crumbling. The paychecks weren't coming in. Bills were coming in. I was on the verge of a breakdown. I didn't know how to handle everything that was going on. And she just started with her she, it, and her crap. And, you know, rallying the troops and just doing what she did best on a daily basis. And I can remember going in the back down this long hallway, and I was in a corner. I'm just sitting there like trying to pull it together. And I said, "Joey Styles, Dawn, what's wrong?" "Joey, I can't take it anymore. I just can't take it anymore. I'm ready to snap. I'm like literally tears in my eyes."
Right.
And he said, "You know what, Dawn? He goes, just punch her in the face. Just give it to her."
Right.
He goes, "When are you going to learn?" He goes, "That's when she's going to stop." I was like, "But I can't do that because my fiance at the time had a job there.
Right.
We needed the money. We were just trying to get every TV minute and hour under our belt to get to that next stage. You know, it was just kind of, it wasn't just my career anymore. It was someone else's also, because I had Simon there."
Right.
So I walked back. The music's coming on. It was a 3-way dance. Jerry Lynn, Carino, PJ. Just incredible. We were in Canada. And I never took my shoes off when I went to the ring to do spots. Never. You can watch any tape. I never ever did that. I thought that was so cheesy and cheap. And I thought, why don't you just put a sign up, "Hey, I'm going to do a run-in." You know, "Hey, I'm taking my shoes off. I'm going to do something."
Right.
I hated that. That was like my biggest pet peeve. And I'm behind the curtain, and I'm watching for my spot. And Paul Heyman's standing right to the side of me. And I take my shoes off. And Paul, being the great observer that he is, he looks at me. just looked at me. And I said, Paul, I love you. I said, I can't take it anymore, and I'm going to beat the crap out of her. I'm done. I said, and you can fire me when I'm done. And he goes, cool. I don't think he thought I would do it. And all of a sudden I ran out, and Franny and I came in, put her face first into the ring. I'm sure you have the footage. You could film right after this. And just sat on her, held her down, kept sitting down. She would roll a little bit, sit back out. And I can honestly tell you, I was blacked out. I don't even remember.
This is the Toronto fan cam, so.
Yeah.
I probably won't put the footage on here. I'll make people buy the DVD. So if you go to our website, you got to look up the Toronto. There's only been one of them, so.
Yeah, that's right. You were there, so you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden, they pull me off, and the ref's going, please, Dawn, come off her. And I'm like, no! I pushed her outside. Boom, boom, boom. I hate you.
I'm going to watch her after this.
And then all of a sudden, I remember looking up, and there in the corner is Jerry Lynn, PJ, and Karina shoulder to shoulder like this.
Huh.
What do we do?
Wow.
And finally, I wound up, I literally blacked out because there was just so much anger and frustration. I finally came out. I was like, fine. I realized what I was doing. I came back through the curtain, and can I tell you, hand to God, the entire locker room applauded me. They were saying, it's about time. It was about time. You have taken so much from her. So then what happened was I stood behind the curtain, kept my shoes off, because there's no way in God's green earth someone would have done that to me and they weren't getting in as soon as they came back through the curtain. And no, she walked right by me, went in the corner, talked to Tommy.
Things change after that, or is it?
She, from what I understand, well, I know for a fact she was never in the ring with me again.
Right.
And from what I understand, she asked to never be in the ring with me again.
Okay. We talked a little bit about checks bouncing. When was the first time one of your checks bounced?
Well, I don't remember.
Did you confront Paul about it, and if so, what was his reaction? Just a typical.
No, Paul took very good care of me.
Right.
When I was with ECW, people don't realize this. I was one of the top paid people at ECW. I was probably one of the top 5 people paid at ECW, and that was a lot of animosity between Franny and I too, because she found out what I was getting paid, and she was pissed off because I was making triple what she was making. But the point is, don't be mad at me. Be mad at the person paying me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's a lot easier to be mad at the person rather than the person you can't control.
Right.
But Paul took really, really good care of me and Simon. And when monies were bouncing, I would just call the bank, and when it was available, we would just get in our car and go. Actual physical money, Paul, we're even. I don't even know.
Right.
It was not a lot. It wasn't a lot because, we just kept on it. And
right.
We just called as soon as it came through, and we drove to the bank and did it.
Was there ever any animosity between you and Paul when you started getting a little bit more over than he was at Simon Diamond? Personally, in your relationship? Or
Oh, me and Simon?
Yeah, with you and Simon. Did you guys have any problems with that?
No, you know what? Pat and I had a wonderful, wonderful relationship. I can tell you, we were together for 7 years, and I can't think of one time that man ever raised his voice at me. He had never cursed at me. He had never said a derogatory word to me. He truly loved me. And if there were some bad feelings, it was because of the feelings people made him feel.
Right.
There were times where he would read in magazines, they would call him Mr. Dawn Marie. Or they would say, people in the locker room, the only reason why he has a job is because of Dawn. And that is not true, because I had nothing to do with him getting his job there. And, a lot of people say, Paul had a huge crush on Dawn Marie for years, and this and that and the other thing, and that's why Simon has a job. Now let's think about that statement. If he had a huge crush on me for years, why the heck would he have my live-in boyfriend there?
Right.
You know, like sometimes people just need to listen to what the heck they're saying and make no sense. He's an incredibly talented man. Incredibly talented. I think he's never given the chance that he should have been given. Whatever those reasons are, I don't know. But, you know, he has a wonderful job now at TNA as a agent. And I think that's perfectly fitting for him. I have never been more proud of him in my life. And I know the same way I feel about him now in his career, and I don't have one, which is just reversed now. Like now he has a wonderful career and I don't have one.
Right.
And I'm so incredibly proud of him. I'm sure from the bottom of my heart that when I had a bigger career than he did, he was incredibly proud of me. So, no, I don't think it's ever created any problems.
When you were in ECW, did you ever negotiate with WCW at all?
No.
Okay.
The reason why, there's a story behind that. When Lance was going to WCW, there was interest in bringing me with them.
Right.
And went through Lance, because I was under contract at the time, so I couldn't talk. And I thought hard about it to pursue the negotiations. But, you know, I'm the type of person where I'm very true to my word, and I believe that you're only as good as your word. Contract doesn't mean anything. If I tell you I'm going to do something, rest assured it will be done. If I tell you I'm going to be there and I'm going to stick by you through thick and thin, I'm going to be there, regardless of the waves that are going to come along the road. And that's what happened with ECW. I had a contract with Paul Heyman in ECW. I had another year and a half left on my contract. Could I have gotten out of it? Absolutely. With all the bounce checks and things that were going on,
Right.
Absolutely. There were so many broken contractual agreements. And I pulled Paul to the side when I made this decision. And it was actually in Canada, the same day I had the fight with Franny.
Right.
And I pulled Paul to the side and I said, "Can I speak with you for a second?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "I need to talk to you in private." We went into a private room. And I said, "I have to tell you something. I was offered a position at WCW with Lance. There's interest in me." And he kind of was like, you know, he figured, here it comes.
Right.
And I said, "But I want you to understand, I'm not going." You know, Paul.
Right.
I said, "But it's not because I drank your Kool-Aid. It's not because I'm an ECW loyalist. It's not because I'm a Paul Heyman loyalist. I said, it's because I am loyal to my word. And when I signed that contract with you and negotiated a deal with you, I promised you I would give you X amount of years, 100% of my ability. So I'm not going to bail on you when times are rough. When our contract's over, you and I will have this conversation again. But I want you to understand why I'm not going."
Right.
I said, "I'm true to my word." I was like, "You know, I believe we're only as good as your word." And I said, "And I will expect the same from you in the future."
Right.
And that was a huge growing point between Paul and I in our relationship, because he respected me so much more for telling him why.
What were your thoughts on the night that Mike Awesome left the belt?
You know, I just never made judgments on people. I don't know what went down with them. I don't know what happened with contracts.
Right.
I don't know what happened, what was promised, what wasn't promised. So I've never made judgment, and I don't know. I think it's very sad of how he's gone.
Right. His passing, you mean?
His passing.
Right.
Why wasn't there someone there to help him? He obviously needed help. And that makes me sad, and which is why I start Wrestlers Rescue.
We're definitely going to talk all
Yes.
about that. Were you there in California with the XPW riot?
Yes.
What are your memories of that night?
That was a little crazy. I was actually doing commentating. And with Joey and Don.
Right.
Cyrus. And
One of my favorites.
oh, he's awesome. Well, if you love Lance, then you love Cyrus. They're very similar
Yeah,
personalities.
Definitely.
I think it's a Canadian thing.
Probably.
But, yeah, that was kind of a crazy night. I didn't get to experience it as much as I would love to because I was stuck in the box.
Right.
Which Cyrus would have had to great deal with that comment. I was stuck in the box. But he probably would have went off on a 20-minute tirade on that one. But I just remember seeing everyone running through. And then when I came back through the curtain, I heard all about it. It was crazy. I think it was a publicity stunt by them. They were trying to be a growing company. What do they say? Copying someone is the greatest form of flattery. I think they were trying to be ECW, thinking that would be something ECW would do back in the day to get exposure or something like that. So in a way, you gotta kind of look at it as flattery, I guess.
At what point did you realize it was serious and ECW was in jeopardy?
We never did. I can honestly tell you, our last day at ECW, I did not know it was our last.
That was Pine Bluff, right? Pine Bluff, Arkansas, I believe. Or Iowa.
No, my last show, I think, was the New York show in the Hammerstein Ballroom.
Okay.
I didn't do the Arkansas one.
Oh, you didn't go out? Okay.
No. So my last one was in the New York Hammerstein Ballroom with Simon and Lance.
So did Paul say anything to you on the side? So you had no idea?
I had no idea. I just heard the news. I don't even think I've ever officially gotten a phone call saying it's over.
Right.
It was just something you heard and knew and never got another phone call back.
Were you owed a lot of money when the doors were closed?
Nominal. It was a nominal amount.
Right. At that time, did you have any discussions with WCW?
No.
Okay.
No. I started to, at that time, look at the industry, start studying it again, and I saw where the girls were going. And I knew that if I wanted to continue in this industry, that I needed to step up and get out of my comfort zone, which I was in for a very long time.
Right. Before we talk about your career in WWE, after ECW, how frustrating was that time for you and Pat together as a couple now that you guys had a nice padded, cushioned job and now it was gone?
It was hard. It was a huge strain on our relationship. I would like to say it was like our downward spiral of our relationship. Money was running out. I was doing some day trading to say, kind of keep our lights on.
Right.
Paul did pay us very well, so we had some money for quite a while. And him and I would get frustrated at him because he's such an educated person that I wanted him to go get his master's and move forward. And I think he was going through his own funk, but I wasn't getting it. I wasn't understanding that he was actually going through a depression. I was just too worried about where we're going to go, what are we going to do. I was focusing on our next step, and he was still trying to figure out what just happened.
Right.
And I was too blinded to even be able to step back from where I was to see what he was going through. So there was some clashing, frustration on both parties, which then I think led him into maybe like a deeper type of depression. I started getting frantic. I actually went back to the bar and danced a little bit, which then I think was a huge damaging part of our relationship because I couldn't understand why I had to go back there. So that put a little damper on us. For me emotionally, like, doesn't he love me? Why is he letting me go back there? But not realizing he was going through his own funk, just kind of thinking only of myself. And then I needed to learn how to wrestle. I was kind of just reaching out for anything to start getting jobs, just to do anything. Indie bookings were starting to fade out because there was so many people out on the market to pick from.
Right.
That it wasn't like prime pay, because there was just now 20, 30 ECW guys right off TV that are available for indie bookings.
Right.
So it wasn't that there was this overflowing. And then I said, well, I need to learn how to wrestle, because that's where the girls are going, and I gotta learn how to wrestle because I need a job. And I don't know anything else, and I'm not done. I gotta learn how to wrestle, so I made him teach me how to wrestle.
How did that go for you as far as learning the bump and all that stuff?
It was hell. It was hell. You have to realize I started wrestling career later in life than what most people do. I started in '95, which means I was 25 years old. I got my first break in '98, August of '98. I was 28 years old.
Right.
Worked for ECW. What year did ECW close down?
2000.
2000. So now I'm 30. 30 years old, learning how to take your first bump. It hurts.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it hurts regularly.
Right.
But 30 years old, you're getting older, and then you know, and then I learned how to wrestle, so that I can go somewhere, you know, go to the next company.
And you had to see Franny again, no problems, I guess. Was it pretty much
No, there were problems,
what happened?
as always.
What happened at that?
I walk in the building 3 months pregnant. I was huge
I remember seeing
right
it.
from the beginning. I just popped right away.
Right.
And I walk in the room. There's Donna or Electra, a bunch of people. I have my bag still in my hand. You know, and I'm going to be polite. It's my locker room. If someone's a guest in my locker room, I'm going to be polite. So I walk over and I say, hello, you know, hey Donna, da-da-da-da-da, talk to everyone. There's Franny to the left. And I go to shake her hand. I'm like, hi Franny, how are you? And as I go to reach my hand out, she goes, pull away. And I grabbed her hand and I kind of like turned her around a little bit and I said, it's nice to see that you're still the pleasant bitch that you always been.
Right.
And I turned around and walked away. But there was no call. There was no need for that. Actually, I don't think I said bitch. I think I said douchebag. But one of them, same thing. But whatever. But there's no call. There's no reason for that. Like, we're here working. I don't like you. You don't like me. The entire world knows it. What's the point of that? To try to embarrass me in my own locker room by disrespecting me? What's your point? So I was just done with her, and I went and I told some agents, and I said, you know what? I'm not going to stand for it. No. And honestly, in my opinion, is she only did that because I was 3 months pregnant, and she knew I wouldn't punch her in the face.
Right.
Because she wouldn't have pulled that crap. That was the first piece of crap she's ever pulled since Toronto. So, I mean, obviously I'm not going to punch her in the face while I'm pregnant. Whatever. She'll always be what she is, and I'll always be what I am. And
Were you surprised you got hired?
no.
Okay.
No. You know, she deserved to be there. She deserved that job. She was a huge part of ECW. She is ECW, and I won't take that away from her. I can see the difference is I can segregate what she is in the industry and what she is as a person, and I don't let them cross.
Right.
She deserved her job there, and she deserved her job at ECW. And no, I wasn't surprised at all.